Hey everybody, Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at a card game, a trick-taking card game for two players called Jekyll versus Hyde. In this game, one player, of course, represents Dr. Jekyll, the other one Mr. Hyde, and they are trying to make different things happen. You are trying to do so by playing tricks. Somebody leads a card, the other player follows suit if they can. You score that, lead a new one, and this continues over 3 rounds of play. At the end of the game, either one side will win by achieving something, by getting to the end of this track in the center of the table, or the other player will win by keeping that from happening, and that's all there is to it. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to explain this more in depth on the table. I'll see you on the other side. In the game, one player is going to be playing Dr. Jekyll, the other player across the table will be playing Mr. Hyde, and they have different goals in the game. They're going to be playing over 3 rounds, and Mr. Hyde is trying to achieve chaos in balance, and Dr. Jekyll, of course, balance and control. So, at the end of every round of trick-taking, you are going to compare the difference between the number of tricks taken. There are 10 cards in each player's hand, so a maximum of 10 tricks, okay? So let's say it doesn't matter which player took 4 tricks and the other player took 6, the difference is 2. This token here is going to move up 2 spaces. And if, at some point by the end of the 3rd round, this makes it all the way to here, then Mr. Hyde is going to win the game. If that doesn't happen by the 3rd round, then Dr. Jekyll will be the winner. These cards have 3 colored suits, 1 through 7 in each. And there are also a few of these potion cards. There are going to be 5 left over in each hand, so you're going to shuffle these up and give each player 10 cards. Once that's done, you are going to pass a number of cards to each other face down and simultaneously equal to the round. So 1 card in the first round, 2 in the second, 3 in the third, and then you are ready to start playing. The one who leads the very first trick of each round is denoted by where this figure is. Up to this point here, it'll be Dr. Jekyll. After it, here and on, Mr. Hyde will play the first card. And so, let's say, again, Dr. Jekyll is on this side. They're going to play a card. And again, I am trying to, as Dr. Jekyll, make sure I am losing and winning as many tricks as possible. I want 5 tricks on this side of the table, 5 over there. So I'm going to play that card. Now, as soon as a color shows up that hasn't shown up yet in this round, we are going to put the matching token here in the weakest spot. And this is going to rank the strength of the suits in relation to each other. Now, the other player is going to play. And you can, on your turn, you have to follow suit. But if you have a potion, you may play that potion instead of following suit. Or if you don't have the suit, then you can play anything else you want. So this player is going to, right now, they may play the 7, the 1, the 5 in that color, which is greed, or they can play the 3 or the 2 potion there. So they are going to play this one, the 7. That means they are going to win this. If the cards are the same color, the strongest one is going to win. If they are different colors, we then reference the strength scale over here. So this player is going to take both of these. They'll set those aside face down. That's 1 trick they have taken. And then they are going to play another card. And they are going to play this one. That is the second color that has shown up. So we're going to put that there, which automatically means red will be the strongest suit in this round. Unless something changes, that could happen, okay? So that player plays that card. We take a look at this hand. I could play this 5, this 3, the 1, or the potion over here. So, what is it about the potions? What do they do? Well, if I play a potion, I am going to trigger an ability based on what card the other player played. And the powers are right here. So this one over here forces the players to exchange 2 cards from their hands with one another. Again, face down on simultaneously. This one here is going to have the winner of this trick take a previously won trick from the loser. Okay? And then this one resets all 3 counters, and they will populate back onto this chart as they show up once again. So right now, this player, again, is attempting to keep balance. They don't want to spend this potion just yet. They are going to lose that trick like so. And Mr. Hyde is very happy right now. They have 2 tricks to none across the table. And they are going to play another card. This is a very strong play here, with the strongest card in the strongest suit. And that's a very strong move. This player only has 2 of these, so perhaps they will play now this 5, and they are going to trigger the red ability. That means all of the tokens are going to reset, like that, and this player still wins that card. So they take it, they lead the next one, they're going to take a look at their hand. Now, one other thing you can do with these, with the potions, is you can lead them, and then call for a color from your opponent. So they could play this and then say, green, which is greed, or wrath. If you do so, your opponent then, if they have any cards of that color, they must play them. Even if they have potions, they have to play the color first. Now, if they don't have any of the color you called for, they can play anything they want, including a potion. And 2 potions against each other will cancel out. One final thing I want to mention is, let's say that player indeed does play that, and they call for, let's say, greed, which is green. If I play that, they are going to trigger the ability, which is, again, we would switch now 2 cards from our hands, and then a 2 with the plus beats a 2. That's what the pluses do. They are slightly better than a normal 2, not as good as a 3. So if this happened, we would switch our cards, and then this player wins that trick. And again, I am now, at this point, I would be trying to give away weak cards and keep strong cards, because I'm trying to even this out, whereas my opponent wants to continue winning. And in fact, based on their hand, they don't care if they're the ones taking a bunch of tricks or I'm the one taking a bunch of tricks. As Mr. Hyde, you just want the imbalance to be there. Once this is all done, let's say they took 7, I managed to steal away 3, then the total is 10, of course. The difference between those would be 4, and this is going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. We are going to shuffle up all the cards, deal each player 10, exchange 2 because of the second round, and do it again. And then if the player still has not won, we would do it a 3rd time, switching 3 cards between us. And that's it. If Mr. Hyde can make it all the way over here by the end of the 3rd round, they are going to win. Otherwise, Dr. Jekyll and the strength of his mind will prevail. That's going to do it for us. Let's go ahead and go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. There you go. That is Jekyll versus Hyde. This is a clever little game. I have enjoyed this one. I think it's a well put together game. It's tricky. It's interesting. It's engaging. I do like it. So let's talk about it, shall we? Theme, I think, is clever. It fits what's going on. The idea of, again, controlling what's happening, balance versus chaos versus imbalance. That's a clever way to do that. And it's neat that then that becomes an asymmetric trick-taking card game for 2. It really works well. The aesthetics here are excellent. I really like the quality of everything. The central piece, this piece that moves on the board here, it's a metal bust, which has Jekyll on one side and Hyde on the other side. It's sort of hard to tell on camera, of course, but it's got some great heft to it. It's a nice piece. Like above and beyond. And then the artwork on everything is wonderful. Card quality is very good. Everything here works quite well. Very few components, but what's in there is exactly what it needs to be. Let's talk about replay value. This is a game that from play to play, you are doing the same thing. There is no setup variability. But having said that, I think there is actually pretty good replay value. For one thing, playing one side versus playing the other means you are sort of attempting to do different things. Your mind is tackling what's going on in a slightly different way. But besides that, there's a lot of subtlety in the game. Timing in this game is very important, and learning how to do that well leads to a lot of replayability. The replay value here is good. Now, it's only a game for 2, so there is that. But I thought that I kept thinking about it. And I kept wanting to play it. I kept sort of wondering what I could have done differently to get the tricks a little closer or swing one more way. When do you play that potion? That's extremely important. By the way, if you draw 2 potions, I forget if I mentioned this in the overview, but if you have 2 potions in your hand or more, you have to give one away when you do the switch of a card, or 2 cards, or 3 cards. So that reduces the luck a little bit. I like that as well. Now, when it comes to game art, the game takes a little bit of a ding for me. Sometimes the game can feel, towards the end, anticlimactic. It's a very short game. It's about 30 minutes or so. But if there's the first or the second round has a very close score, meaning 5 tricks to 5 tricks, the Hyde player makes no forward progression at all, which means they're going to have a really hard time making that up in the third round. So, for example, this board here has 10 spaces on it. Let's say the first round, we have 6 tricks to 4. Perfectly likely. So that means they're going to make 2 spots of progression on here. It's always a difference. So they always move up on here by 2, right? 7 to 3, 8 to 2, that. So if they're here after the first round, and then on the second round, the Dr. Jekyll character manages to make it 5 to 5, that means on the third round, you need to have a difference of 1, 2, 3, 4 tricks between you, right? So that means you're going to have a 7 to 3 split. Doesn't matter which way, which is tricky. It certainly is. So that round might be a little anticlimactic. It could happen. So there is that. It's doable, I think, for both sides. It's tricky and perhaps a little trickier for Hyde. I'll talk about that. But I think it could lead to that kind of feeling for the third and final round in the game. Okay, ease of play I actually think is pretty good. There are a couple of things you need to make sure that are clear, like leading a potion card. That needs to be clear what happens with that. You lead, you call a color. The player has to play that color if they have any, not a potion. If they don't have any, they can play whatever. So there is that, potion against potion. You just look at the numbers. But overall, it's a very smooth game. It's a quick playing, interesting game. I love the ranking of the suits. I think that's very clever. And talking about that, let's talk about tactics and luck and strategy. This is a small game. It almost kind of gives me that feeling of a micro game in many ways. But there are a lot of ideas in it that do feel clever. I love the 3 suits ranking thing. I love that the suits have powers that can be triggered with a potion. I think that's neat. You cannot underestimate in this game the strength of a well-timed potion. The strength of leading with a potion and asking your opponent to play a specific card, i.e. a specific power. Again, you are kind of depending on what the potion is and which power, you might be giving that power to the opponent, but you're changing something. So it's very interesting. It's in many ways it is subtle, but there are a lot of things you can attempt to do that you have some control over and is clever and engaging. This is one of those card games, trick-taking card games in which passing cards is so interesting. I find a lot of trick-taking games do this. And unless you can short suit yourself, I only have 2 red cards, so I'll pass them along. I got another red card from this person. Great. A lot of trick-taking games where you're passing cards around the table one way or the other. I find that phase just sort of, there for balance and for reducing luck a little bit, but it isn't as interesting as in this one, where one player is trying to, if they have a generally weak hand, they want to make it weaker. The other player is trying to make sure to shore up their defenses, more high cards or more low cards. It's such a clever moment of decision in the game. Now, I will say, I think playing as Mr. Hyde is a little harder than playing as Dr. Jekyll. The reason for that being, it's generally easier for the game to sort of self-balance in the center, okay, because of the luck of the deal in many ways. You are much more likely to end up at 6 versus 4 than 9 tricks to one person and 1 trick to the other person. It's just very, very unlikely. And for the Mr. Hyde character to pull that off, they need to do some very tricky maneuvering. That means they are going to have to be timing a lot of things very well, right? Potion usage, stealing a trick or giving one away, clearing the ranking of the cards so they can be re-ranked and leading the cards correctly. So I think it is a little harder, whereas the other player can just sort of, if there's a general progression of how things normally go, they'll end about 5-5, 6-4. That's usually where you're going to end up. So my recommendation would be then to play 2 games and switch. That might be a little long for you, perhaps, but it feels right. I think it's the best way to balance it, and if someone just straight up wins as Mr. Hyde, great. If not, you see how close each player got, right? So overall, I think this is a really neat, interesting, asymmetric 2-player trick-taking game. How many of those do we have, right? It's got a great look, an interesting theme. It works well. You might have a preference for playing one side or the other, but that's, again, that might be up to you. So that pulls it down a little bit, perhaps. And then that feeling of, oh, this game's over before we've played this third hand, it feels like. So there you go. But for me, I liked it quite a bit. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for a clever trick-taking game that's outside of the norm, this feels outside of the norm. And I like that. I like that it's not bizarre in order to be different. It's just clever and different. And I like that very much. So again, 8 out of 10. Seal of approval from me for Jekyll versus Hyde. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. My name is Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.